Hello, I am Joel McLeod.
And I'm Roland Tanner.
And welcome to the 905er. The Doug Ford government is in retreat over the greenbelt scandal. One part of their plan was to force 905 municipalities to expand their urban boundaries, often against their wishes. In a desperate attempt to undo the political damage done to the government, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing Paul Calandra is in a mad rush to reverse many of the decisions of his predecessor. As part of this desperate rush was the recent legislation returning many 905 municipalities' urban boundaries to their former states. For the vast majority of municipalities, this retreat is a welcomed one, but not for every municipality, it seems. A recent story in the Globe and Mail brought to light the fact that Milton Mayor Gord Krantz is taking issue with the province's boundary reversal. Rather than work to intensify, it seems Milton wants permission to expand into the green space and farmland surrounding it. We were puzzled by this outlier in the Ontario political landscape and wanted to know more about what was going on in Milton. So to do so, we asked our friend of the podcast, Laura Steiner, to come on once again to give us her insight into what exactly is going on here. Is Milton looking to perpetuate the cycle of sprawl and bust, or is there something more? Laura Steiner is a reporter from the Milton Reporter, an online digital media outlet focusing on, you guessed it, Milton. She is a frequent contributor to our podcast, and as always, we welcome her expertise on the matter.
You looking to make the most out of this life and optimize your personal wellness? Then check out the Natural Man podcast. Join me, host Mike C., as we explore all areas of human wellness, physical, mental, and emotional. Learn strategies to optimize your own well-being and be in the driver's seat of your own health. Remember, your doctor works for you. Learn biohacks, neurohacks, ways to improve sleep, and ways to optimize your body and your mind. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, the Fountain app, and at naturalmanpodcast.com.
Welcome back to the 905er podcast. Laura Steiner of the Milton Reporter for, I don't know, what is this? Visit number 4, I guess. Visit number 5. Who knows? Long time friend of the pod.
Too much fun to keep count, I guess. So.
There we go. Well, welcome back to talk Milton mischief. We are coming off our last episode where we had spoken with Mayor John Taylor of Newmarket about his issues with development in Newmarket and wanting to get a better handle. We have this other story in Milton with Mayor Gord Krantz kind of going the opposite, saying, no, we want all those changes brought back. And so we thought, well, let's ask Laura Steiner, who's kind of plugged into Milton politics, to kind of say what is going on in Milton.
That's an interesting question. I know I spent some time the last couple of days looking into it a little bit more detailed. I can say that there was no Mayor Krantz refused the strong mayor powers, so he didn't use the strong mayor powers. So it's not him. It looks like it's sort of a council thing, but I'm going to start from as close to the beginning as I can get.
Yes, please.
And that it started in 2022. And around the time the regional official plan amendment, they approved it in a 15-9 vote at council in February. And for some reason, the day before, there's this, you can Facebook search it under Halton Regional Council. There's this letter that the mayor sent to the Premier, CC, the MPP, Parm Gill, and then Minister Steve Clark. And he's saying all this about how he didn't want it to go ahead because he felt like the regional council was stepping all over Milton's right to sort of decide for itself, et cetera, et cetera. The resulting motion was actually more of a compromise than they really. It was more of a compromise in that there's an amendment to it where basically the expansion factor that Milton wanted was actually kicked down the road about 5 years to talk about then. So it's not like under that, it's not like Milton wasn't going to get its expansion. It's just a case of not yet. So that letter was sent off, I think, about either the day before or the day after that meeting. The official plan amendment that all passed, and so then the next step is Steve Clark says there was a decision released in November, so about a year ago now, that yes, Milton, you can have some of your land back. So that one, and then the whole greenbelt mess costing poor Steve Clark his job, and Paul Calandra comes on the scene, decides to freeze a lot of his decisions. So, and now this past weekend there was this little letter I have. It's on, I think, the Environmental League. It's floating out there on the internet.
I'm actually looking at it right now. Yeah, I'm actually, just while you were talking, I brought it up. So it's Environmental Defence, who we were speaking to a couple of weeks ago, who've really been at the forefront of everything to do with what the province was doing with the greenbelt, but also all the other changes to municipal boundaries. And just looking at it here, I mean, like you said, I mean, it's just there's the request basically to say, for lower tier municipalities to basically say anything that they want that they don't like coming from the upper tiers. So Milton, what Milton doesn't like about Halton, and to sort of throw that into the mix as they're deciding if there's anything they shouldn't reverse. So I guess that means that Gord Krantz is responding to that. Another thing that's pertinent is that Minister Calandra said heads of council may choose to seek a council endorsement of their proposed changes, but that is not required. I mean,
I don't see that. There was a meeting. Our meeting was Monday night. Mm-hmm. That came up because now Milton is undergoing its official plan amendment process, and it's called Make Milton. I forget what it's called offhand, but
Make Milton great again. I don't
know.
It sounded like that was where you're going.
Weird like that. I don't know. But that's so that happened on Monday, and they had a couple of delegates speaking to the issue, and one of them basically accused it of being undemocratic, the way that it went along. But
undemocratic in what way? In that the mayor's,
in that basically the mayor has effectively overturned, I guess maybe that even that's too strong of a word, but overturned, for one of a better way to put it, the ROPA 49.
He's certainly, he's requested that it be overturned, isn't he? I mean, and
he's requested twice now.
Again, this is. I mean, he didn't take strong mayor powers, but Minister Calandra, on what basis I know not, is basically saying, "Hey, mayors, just tell me what you want, and kind of nudge, wink, wink. I might do it. No democracy required. No votes required. No consultation with other levels required. Just tell me. I might do it." And this drives me nuts because this is the way municipal government is being run now. Fine. The province has reversed something that got them into a lot of trouble, but they're not changing. this is just a new way of and I would hope that good mayors, decent politicians would say, I'm not touching this nonsense. This is not the way we should be running the show.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Mayor Krantz is not one of the people who thought that. I mean, this is the traditional way. I mean, to be fair to Mayor Krantz, this is the traditional way the province works with the municipalities. It's divide and rule, and the municipalities all work with the province by just constantly holding out the begging bowl and saying, please, sir, can we have something here?
There's been constant conversations around that table about what would happen if Milton just decided to say, no, we're not growing that much. We don't have the infrastructure for it. We're going to do a little bit of growth, but we're going to make sure it's well planned and well done.
Which is why it's so irresponsible for the mayor to go off on his own thing, and for the minister to ask the mayor to go off on his own thing, because people spend years and years working this stuff out. And as we were talking to Mayor Taylor the other day, it's like I wouldn't sign up because the infrastructure is not there. We don't have the sewage system to support the housing that the province is wanting us to promise. I don't think any of that really has gone through Mayor Krantz's head. I suspect.
I have a question. Sorry, Laura, go ahead. I interrupted you.
There's also, but like to Roland's point, there's all sorts of infrastructure deficits here. There's constant complaints about schools. A new school is built and you have 6 or 10 portables.
Mm-hmm.
And look at Bishop Redding. And, and it isn't just, and roads aren't being kept up well, and it's starting to wear. Like
the question I have to you, Laura, is so the Mayor Krantz it sounds like Mayor Krantz wants to kind of just keep doing things the way that things have been done all along. It's just continually just build out single home neighborhoods in Milton. And my question is, have you heard of, like, from the ground, kind of the grassroots, like the people there saying, we need to build new types of housing or new types of like essentially start building up, not out, and especially because there's a lot of prime farmland in and around Milton.
There is. Have I heard there's urban? I don't know. Maybe you're familiar with it. Maybe not. There's urban sprawl Halton, which is pretty strong in this area, and they took on the fight originally against the region on the official plan amendment 49 when it was passed last February, and there was something like, probably easily 5 or 6, there's probably more, but at least 6 speakers from that same group talking and arguing for it. Just when I haven't been in person, obviously, for over 2 years, a little longer because I had some personal stuff with my mom's illness and that. And, but when I did sit in council, these developments would come and you'd have the lineup of people raising like some really decent points, really well thought out presentations, but it was almost like they weren't listening. Almost like it fell on deaf ears, for excuse the wording.
Mm-hmm.
fell on silent ears almost. And it's like, they almost said, okay, good for you, we've heard you, so we're gonna, but we'll do one anyway.
Don't get me started about the delegation process at councils and the many problems with that. I'm sure that is the case. I mean, the best way for any councillor to deal with the question is just listen to the delegation and don't ask any questions yourself. It's only a matter of politeness that they usually feel asking a couple of questions of the delegate is worth their while. they really don't like what you say when you're met with stony silence, as I've had a few times.
Yeah. But if I could get in a point of the curious thing about the whole ROPA 49 is in their endorsement. I just found this out in the last by looking into it. Milton Council endorsed the regional plan in January of last year, and I looked it up, and the motion it said basically, let it be known that we're endorsing this plan, but we also ask the province to give us land if it isn't being used for the 413.
I guess this speaks to the kind of Milton is in a little bit of a different place, sort of psychologically, to maybe the other two big municipalities in Halton, and the Oakville and Burlington are kind of they're built out. There's been some pretty major kind of there have been sort of movements of people at various points sort of who've made a lot of trouble for the council about developments, which means that the councils tend to, I think, have sort of learned to be a lot more careful about what they're asking for and how they're doing it. And it seems that Milton is maybe in a kind of halfway house right now, almost, where there's a number of councillors who would be in line with the kind of main thrust of the councils in Oakville and Burlington, but there's also maybe more of the old school guys, and obviously no one's more old school than Gord Krantz, who are like develop. I mean, is that a fair characterization, do you think, or am I way off base?
There's been some new blood come on in the 2022 campaign. There's I don't keep going back, Mike Cluett and Rick DiLorenzo of Mike Cluett sat in the regional ward seat for Ward 3, and Rick DiLorenzo was Ward 3 municipal councillor. They happened to face off against each other, and they both lost to Sammy and Jazz. And so there's a little bit of new blood there. But on the whole, it takes a few years for anything for people to change their style of thinking, to build up, not, to build up on out, the whole build up, not out kind of a thing. And also I think generally there seems to be an inability on the part of political leaders not to stand up and say, hey, listen, this dream of a house in the suburbs, it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
We have to look at building up. We have to build the laneway housing. We have to look at Oakville. They're talking tiny houses. We have to look at that. We have to look at all sorts of different ways to use our land effectively to house people, and not just do the single home. The dream might be dead.
Well,
as depressing as that sounds.
Well, no, but you have a point there, that we just need to start thinking differently about how our communities are structured. And my question is kind of like Gord Krantz, is he playing cover for Doug Ford with this? Because that's what it sounds like to me, is that, okay, Paul Calandra gets called in to fix Steve Clark's mistake, and because the government got caught with their hand in the cookie jar on the greenbelt and development. So now they're trying to roll that back quickly as possible. But let's face it, I don't think this provincial government actually has a development plan to build the necessary housing that we need. So is Gord Krantz basically playing cover? It's like, no. That what you did was okay. We want that. We want that. We want the urban sprawl growth as our solution. Bring that back.
On Gord, I'll start with that. On Gord Krantz, it's pretty well, on Mayor Krantz, it's pretty widely known, and there's absolutely zero secret about it, that he is a progressive conservative to his heart. Mm-hmm. And but whether that means he's playing cover, I I don't know. I'm not sure, like, what
I
the
mean,
relationship is between them, but I guess it's always possible. I
I'm more
mean,
of a fan. I mean, I think
it's
I would go more with the cock up than the conspiracy theory in this case, in that this is just
but it's probably
completely,
a
it's just
pretty yeah. It's
it's
more of a
completely
cock up,
within
but
Gord Krantz's modus operandi over the last half century.
30, yeah,
It's just to carry on doing what Milton has always done, which is
yeah.
being sprawling.
It's
Um,
it's
and
also, to be fair, it's also a pretty it's also a pretty strat. I think it's probably I think it's probably fair to characterize it as a staff-driven council. A lot. They lean on the staff there a lot,
I mean,
and
that's the
so that comes into play as well, and all of its issues. And there's also, I think there's a lot of finance. I think my personal theory is it actually goes to more to finances than anything, because Milton's in a position right now, has been for at least was a couple of years ago, where business growth is actually outpacing residential growth, and that if you know, and that shifts a lot of the tax burden onto the residential homeowner,
I mean, it
and
comes. I
so
mean,
residences are, so people are paying like upwards of 5-6% per year in a tax increase. So I wouldn't, because it goes to the whole progressive conservative roots, wouldn't put it. He likes to keep taxes low. The council's made their names at keeping taxes low, one of the lowest rates in the GTA, but they've also, the town's wearing it right now.
I mean,
So
really, it's a classic case of. I'm just looking up the guy's name, Chuck something, the guy behind the Strong Towns website, who sort of made the case. Chuck Maron, I think. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, writes on sort of urban development in North America. I mean, primarily in the US. But his kind of argument is that the way that development is done in North America is kind of a Ponzi scheme. You need constant development. You need constant fast growth to pay for what you've just built the previous year.
yeah,
It's like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, kind of. So if you then say, okay, we're not going to go out anymore, we're going to go up. The development fee is going to be different, and by the way, the province is going to get rid of a whole load of development fees. Then the city's just lost one of its major sources of finance for just keeping the doors open.
That's a problem too.
Yeah. So the Ponzi scheme is kind of falling apart. In places like Milton.
But this kind of brings me back to our previous episode with John Taylor, in that, the province of Bill 23 and by getting rid of the development charges and this whole mess that we're now in.
Yeah.
They're what's needed is a kind of a new financing model kind of for municipal governance. There needs to be a new way for municipalities to fund themselves and pay for the services that people require. Yet the province isn't giving that, and we don't seem to see what frustrates me is that we don't see the mayors or the municipalities stepping up saying, okay, guys, we need to change the way this game is played. We need to change the rules of the game now. Otherwise, it's just going to be everybody gets property tax increases to just keep the lights on. Forget building community centers. Forget building hockey rinks or transit improvements. This is just to keep the stuff that we have now. Just keep it running. And I mean, that's something that we've heard from other mayors that they're complaining with the system, but I don't see any of the mayors coming together saying, no, like, the system is now broken. It's broken. Like we need a new funding model, not just for Milton or for Newmarket, but for every municipality in Ontario.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the mayors have to go to bat for themselves and say, Doug, Paul, it ain't working, guys. we need either these powers, or we need a new funding model, or we need a new something. But otherwise, it's just let's tax people more just to keep the lights on.
The obvious change that I would see, I mean, basically the cities don't have nearly enough ways to raise money. And I mean, actually, Jennifer Keysmat made the point that hadn't occurred to me before, because we were all sort of saying, well, the loss of development fees is a terrible thing because now the cities are short of that money and they have to go to the city. And her argument actually was, you know what, that stuff should be on the tax bill. It shouldn't be, infrastructure is the city's job to provide. It's not the city's job. It's not, I don't know. That was a point that she made. I thought it was interesting. Whether I agree with it, I don't know. But the other thing is, in most parts of the world, as far as I know, people can correct me if I'm wrong, businesses pay tax in the cities that they exist in. There's no such thing as municipal business tax. Why not? I think there should be. You're in the city, you're using the services, pay tax. But we don't. Businesses get a free ride in municipalities. I know it'd be incredibly unpopular to say, okay, you guys are going to have to pay your way. It would be absolute, the government that introduced it would probably be signing their own death warrant. But why the hell not?
I don't know. I don't think so. If you were able to introduce it on the pretext of no, a business is paying their fair share, I think in this current situation that would go over well with people. If you brought up like the point that you just made, Roland, was saying, hey, these guys have been using our services forever. They've never paid a dime to us directly. We're asking for them to pay their fair share. You pay your property taxes through rent or through your mortgage or whatever. These guys,
and you know what? It would be down to the municipality. I think you should give the municipality the power to levy business taxes. Mm-hmm. Municipality can say we're not going to do that. We're not going to use that tool. We're going to keep on charging people the way we always have. Give them the power, and then that's a potential source of finances.
Especially if it keeps your property taxes moderate or manageable.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that then you could have cities competing against. I mean, I guess one of the reasons it doesn't exist is that like one city's levying X percent and one city's levying another percent. All the businesses might, just jump ship. I don't know, but I do know that in other parts of the world, if you run a business in a city, then you're going to be paying tax, just like we pay tax. No one likes taxes, but there's a reason why we pay them, because some stuff has to be paid for, like drains and gutters and sewers and road surfaces and all that stuff. The lack of funding streams for cities is just the constant problem. And basically we're seeing Milton make bad decisions because of the need to get money to keep the show on the road.
Keep the lights on,
without, I mean, of course, it could just put taxes up.
Reserves for a number of years. They had reserves, but the reserves drained down, and then they were left with nothing. Now they're left with having to rebuild the reserves and almost no money.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect what we're going to be seeing in the next decade, if conservative governments remain, if we continue to have a PC government, certainly, and maybe if we have a liberal one, I wouldn't be looking for any great revolutions with Bonnie Crombie, if I'm completely honest. The kind of the age of municipal reserves is going to be gone. Now, the cities are they're really obligated to have those reserves. I mean, because they can't go into debt, you've got to have those supplies for a rainy day. But I think the province has basically, in the way it's been treating them, been forcing them to run down the reserves and run down the reserves and run them down. Like Mayor Taylor was saying the other day, how it operates is it forces the city to do something, and then when the result is bad, says, "Hey, look, the cities are screwed up." This is what it's like. You make the city sign up to impossible, ridiculous housing targets, and then when every city in the province misses the targets, you say, "Well, these cities are useless. Let's take more power away from them." And the thing that makes me mad about actions like Mayor Krantz's here, just going off on their own and negotiating their own thing, separate to their own council, separate to the region, upending the process, going around the back. I mean, again, this is how this government works. You have a process, you go through all the steps, you pay all the money for the staff to go through the process, spend the years doing all the work, and then the province says, hey, do you want to throw all that in the garbage and just do something different anyway? And then people do it. And the end result is chaos, because you're just getting decisions being made on the back of an envelope by someone who's half awake on a good day of the week. Naming no names, Mayor Krantz.
I didn't say it, so.
No, I'm independent. I live in Hamilton. I know that that was a very unfair statement, and you would never, I know that's not your. I can be rude because, let's face it, he doesn't have a computer. He's not going to be listening. But it's ridiculous. It's just an example of what's going on all over the place. It's just a particularly ridiculous example because it's so counter to what everybody's saying in the province.
Yeah. I suspect, though, that if he'd gone the route of an endorsement from council, it wouldn't have been a unanimous endorsement. And the council, Milton Council, initially endorsed that original plan in January of 2022, a vote of 7-2.
Again, that's the maddening thing. The council has had the vote. They voted for the boundaries that the region approved. They voted to accept those boundaries. You can't then go back and say, we changed our mind. We don't actually like them after all. Can you throw them out?
I think they're probably trying to use I think they're probably trying to use it was the old council. So did that.
That's not how it works. Too bad.
No.
And how much did the council change? I know it changed a bit, but
other than the 2 new faces, actually 3 new faces, Councillor Adil Kaliki, Ward 3 Municipal, Councillor Sammy Ijaz, Ward 3 Regional, and Councillor Sarah Marshall out in Ward 4 Municipal. So there were 3 around the table, but that's on a vote of 29%.
And
29% of eligible voters voted, which again, as the same thing, because I say this a lot too about the BC government. I mean, this is an example of what happens if you don't vote.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we Mayor Krantz or Gord Krantz as a candidate at the last election would have been very welcome to come onto this podcast if there were any means by which he could actually connect to a Zoom meeting during, from his campaign headquarters in Milton. We spoke to other candidates. We spoke to Zishan Hamid, who seemed like without wanting to just out and out say this guy's a better candidate, he seemed like a very credible candidate. Let's put it that way,
In one sense, he was, but having paid attention to him when he was on council as well. He was trying to run against his own record, and he wasn't even didn't even acknowledge it. I sat in on a all candidates meeting up in Nessagawea, and I'm sitting in the audience, and Councillor Best, who was acclaimed, was handing me this piece of paper. It was a printout of the minutes from one of the council meetings, and Zishan was going on about high-rise buildings and stuff, and the sheet of paper was from the minutes with a recorded vote in which Councillor Hamid, had voted in favor of a high-rise development.
I mean,
join
the club. Join the club. It's. I mean, to be a councillor is to be caught in that. I mean, I guess the difference is that there are multiple councillors across Halton who have got the basis for successful political careers on the basis of having quite a loud vociferous problem with high rises.
Yeah.
And then at various points kind of had to end up voting for them because you have to end up voting for them a lot of the time because it's
Yeah.
I know it's just this sucky system. I'm not defending Councillor Hamid, then Councillor Hamid. It's part of the way that the current municipal system puts people in impossible situations all the time. I think, which is all wrong.
But just to bring it back to the matter of Gord Krantz, though.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if my thoughts are just, is there no innovation in Milton Council to push for a new way of doing things? Is Milton stuck in a cycle of sprawl or bust? Because quite frankly, I look and say this need of, we can't. It strikes me that every other municipality in the 905 is saying, no, we don't want to expand our boundaries. We need to figure out a way to build within what we've got already. And Milton's saying, nope, can't be done. We need to expand our boundaries to meet housing targets. And I'm wondering, is there no imagination of is there alternative ways of building the housing that we need for the housing crisis?
I'm not sure, really. I haven't really been that plugged into this particular, to the specific angle of it, but there have been, like I said, there have been a couple of high rises that have been improved in the last few years. So it's sort of starting to be built up.
Right.
But again, it's just spread out, and it's like the cookie cutter style, like Madame, and that just sort of, where there's actually apparently no room in the garages for two cars, no room in the driveway for two cars.
I mean, I feel
enough room in the garage for one. So it's like, and I think there have even been councillors that have complained about that. And it's like, but you sat on the council, and it was approved. So
I guess in one way we can't blame them for using the tools that the province is giving them, and the province is giving them chaotic, random tools. Basically 2 lines in a letter saying, "Hey, you don't have to talk to your council about this. Just tell me what you want. I'll give it to you." And it's like, okay, fair enough. I mean, we can disagree with Mayor Krantz's decision, and I certainly do. I think it's completely ridiculous. Not only is it ridiculous for Milton, in the context of all the news, a politician who actually cared about re-election and worried about votes and things like that would not have come out and made a big, loud announcement saying, "Yeah, come sprawl here," right at this moment, because it's just like politically, it's stupid. But in Milton, it doesn't matter because Gord will get re-elected anyway, and Gord doesn't care. Which is just the mess of democracy that we have at a local level. But I mean, he's just using a tool that's been given to him. The real criticism, as so often, really goes to the province for just
it's mostly financial.
Well, it is. I mean, and Gord's doing what Gord has done since most of us were twinkles in their parents' eyes.
Well, I mean, it's
fair.
But to me, what it comes down to is a complete lack of imagination to combat this very real problem of housing. Yeah, we all need to build housing, but it just strikes me as really we can't think of a new way of building the housing or the communities that we need. It's just no, we need to build another that farmland. Yep, we can build 20 houses on that plot of land, so let's do that. And then past that, we'll build another 20, and eventually we'll hit our targets.
Yeah.
But, is that it's more just like really we're just going to solve the problem. The problem that got us into this mess is it the solution that we're going to get out of it. I don't buy it in the slightest.
Well, another thing was that the transit corridors actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I lied. There's some developments going up along Nipissing, which is it's a street behind Milton Mall. That curves down and around. There's a couple of high rises going in there, but along a transit, it's along like a transit node area, but such that the GO station they're trying to sell it as close to transit, and it's like it's close to transit, but not very good transit. So it's just all one problem that just cascades on another, and
that's it. It's just we're just trying to solve every solution we have just solves a really bad problem that we had before it, which creates just another bad problem too. So I know we're coming up on our time for this episode, Laura, and we'll have you back on because I'm sure that the woes in Milton will not go away anytime soon.
No.
But thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing an update with us and to our listeners. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. That was fun.
That's it for this episode of the 905er. Thank you for listening. As always, you can send us your feedback, thoughts, and concerns or ideas for future episodes to our email, info@905er.ca. We'd love to hear from you. You can help us keep the 905er going by financially supporting us through Patreon as well as PayPal. Visit us at 905er.ca and click on the support tab. As well, links are in the show notes for your convenience. Lastly, you can find us on social media. Search for _905er on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So long for now. See you next time.